Hey, 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 what's up, good people? Welcome to season 2 of a Dope Chick Spiritual Journey podcast. I'm your girl, Doc Sunny, and guess who I brought for episode 1 of season 2? The original Dope Chick. All through season 1, I'm pretty sure you've all heard me talk about my mom this and my mom that, and this is what my mom said. So I figured everyone should get to see the original Dope Chick, my mother. Some call her Lulu, right? What are some of the names you go by? Well, let me stop because usually I allow my guests to introduce themselves. So we should not break tradition just because of our familiar relationship.
Okay.
So how do you want the people to know you? Tell the people who you are.
I am Sunne-Ryse's mom.
Hey, that's a good way to start.
I am Dr. Lucille, and I am happy to be here. I pastor a church in Brooklyn, and I am a transformational strategist, which means I take people's lives and move it to another level. I am an author and I'm a member of, I've been inducted in the Morehouse Board of Preachers. I received salutations, that's right, from New York, yes, from the governor of New York, and New Jersey mayor.
Okay.
I ran a lunch program for 17 years where I fed kids in Brooklyn, 1,000 kids every day for 17 years. None of my kids were overweight because one of my cooks did fried chicken and curry goat and all sorts of stuff for my kids.
Good Caribbean food.
Yeah, so they were never, ever overweight. And I'm honored to be here with my daughter, the original Dope Chick.
Hey, look, she's learning already. So if this is your first time tuning in to Dope Chick Spiritual Journey podcast, I am all about God, divinity, but really taking away some of the, what I call stushiness and seriousness about faith, and really having honest conversations. Like, what does faith look like? What does faith feel like? And the journey that is spirituality, right? Yes. So I want to kick off with you because I have so many questions. I already know, but I think my audience will be really, really moved by a lot of your story. But I always start with this first question. When you hear the word divinity, what do you think of?
Having a relationship with.
Okay.
Not being in judgment of other people. Because many times when we think of divinity, we think of religiousness, we think of non-sinning, and we think of putting ourselves in a box.
Yeah. See, I told y'all this. Everybody wonders, well, Sunne-Ryse, how do you think like this? How are you, this person? Right? That was good, right? It's non-judgment. And that is a theme with a lot of my guests, right? Because a lot of my guests have different walks of life in their faith, and they have different faith journeys. And you were the first person that I know, clearly, that has kind of lived inside of different religions per se. Why? Like how did that even happen for you? Because I know you were raised Seventh-day Adventist. Try that on for size. No judgment to my good Seventh-day Adventist brothers and sisters out there. But like, how did you evolve, starting there? And then I won't tell your whole story, but if you tell my listeners like your journey, all the different religions that you've kind of explored and how you are where you are now.
Yes, well, I was born and raised a Seventh-day Adventist. And in 1972, I was invited to a church in Brooklyn, which everyone was saying, I shouldn't attend to because it was a Seventh-day Adventist church, but the pastor had started his own ministry. And it's the first time I was raised in a home with my mom talking about affirmations and positivity. So I was raised with that. But when I got to that ministry, it was a totally different level. My eyes were open, and I realized that I was made in the image and likeness of God, and I was God, a little g. When I started to understand why I was here, the reason that God sent me my assignment, And my assignment was an assignment of non-judgment. So I was there for 30 years. And then, well, in the midst of my being there for 30 years, my former husband and I decided to be Muslims. Because, and why did we decide to be Muslims? Because we were coming to the awareness of people of color and what was supposed to be with them. And so we went to the mosque for about a year. I chanted because when I was having my daughter, I was going through a rough time. And someone in the building where I lived, she said to me one day, have you ever chanted? And she got me to sit in meditation and just to get my spirit in alignment with who I was and why I was here. And so when you think about that, the number one thing too that I recognized and I realized was that there are persons who call by different names, but they all recognize a higher being.
Yes.
And so that is one of the things that Christianity think, that because you say God and no one else is there, if you say Allah, if you say Buddha, if you say Shango, if you say any of these other names, it is heresy. So what happens is it's as if God, the supreme being, has locked himself down in one name, and only one set of persons are entitled to go to what is called heaven.
Wow.
So when you understand that God sent you here to explore life, to live a full life, when you put a seed in the earth, it does not stay in the earth. What does that seed do? It starts looking for light. And as the seed starts looking for light, what happens? It grows. And so what I found was that by my exploring different religions, it means that I was able to relate to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I could go in any place. I could go to the mosque. I could go to a Baptist church, a spiritual Baptist church. I could go to a regular Adventist
Methodist church,
anything, and any church. Why? Because I recognize that wherever I am, God is, and all is well.
And that's something you definitely instilled in, my brothers and I, that wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And I like, to me, what stood out just now, what you said, and I want you to elaborate on it, was a seed goes in the ground and it's looking for light.
Yes.
It is in search of light. It's in search of, ironically, it's in search of something that it knows it needs, but it doesn't quite know how to access it. And so when you think of, like, a lot of my viewers and listeners, they do come from different walks and different faiths or whatever, and different beliefs. What was it in you that said, well, you said part of it was coming into the knowledge of self as people of color, as Black people. Why, though, the mosque, Buddha? Do you know what I mean? Was it just environmental? Was that what you had access to? Or was it something deeper that you felt like was calling you to those different lights?
I am an explorer. One of the things I didn't say also is Judaism.
Oh, yeah.
I studied, one of the main books I studied was Teach Yourself Judaism.
Okay.
Why? Because when you see certain things, how can I relate, or how can I know who you are? Either are you friend? Are you foe? Are you there for me? If I don't get myself acquainted with you. And so what happens is Christians, I just have to use Christians, tend not to be willing to find out about other persons, not to be willing to go outside of their comfort zone.
Wow.
And because you're not willing to go outside of your comfort zone, we lose a lot.
Yeah.
I
think we not just we lose a lot, but we lose our ability to be servants of God.
Yes.
Right? Because if I am limited in my opinions about you based on this one factor, then I can't serve you the way God wants me to serve you, because I'm only focused on how I want to serve you.
Yes.
And I think that's I know for myself growing up, you were an example of that. Like, you never whatever you taught us, that service, regardless of who we were serving, was more of a priority than the religion of it. Now, jokes though, because, you know, I can't do this without some honesty. Halloween was hella ridiculous in my house because your girl over here who would explore all things, Halloween was like, she's like, no, 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 no.
You know, I also believe in vibrations.
There it is.
I really, really believe in vibrations. I believe that be careful of the spirits that you entertain.
Okay.
You
tell
understand?
them more.
And so when you entertain those negative things, they become a part of you. So that I did not allow my kids to go to the store and buy a devil mask to put on their faces.
Right.
Because that is not what I wanted my kids to be. I didn't want any devilism or negative or witchery to be a part of my children's legacy.
Yeah.
You understand? And so that is the one thing that I made a decision on, because I knew that God sent me here to be a steward of my children.
Yeah.
And as a steward, if you think of what a steward is responsible for taking care of the master's house, for the food or running the house.
Yeah.
So God sent me as a steward, and he gave me 3 phenomenal children and a nephew. And so my assignment was to make sure that when I presented them back to my maker, because I will at some time, I can look and he will have to tell me, well done, you're good and faithful servant. Not because I lived in non-judgment, not because I thought I was better than anybody else, but because I made a decision to be the best person I can be, so my kids would be the best persons that they could be. I also want to share one thing, and that is, and I know I wanted to say this, we are more alike than we think.
You mean the humankind?
Of religions.
Yes.
I remember when we had some close friends that were Muslims. I was raised not eating pork. You understand?
Yeah.
And then I found out that they didn't eat pork either.
Yeah.
And then if you think of my Jewish friends, when they would come, they didn't eat pork either. You understand? So then I found out that there were commonalities.
Yes.
You understand?
Of course.
In
prophets, everything.
That's right. And you know, like prophetic words. You know, there are those people there in some religions that do not accept the prophetic word. But the prophetic word comes to give you sometimes revelation, to help you to be able to move to another level. That's it.
Yeah. So what would you say to a young woman out there who is just in a place where she is exploring her faith, really trying to understand what God has called her to do in her life, but she's probably grown up in a very oppressive, a very oppressive home around faith and God and religion? Because, you know, I was very fortunate that, you know, you weren't like that, right? Now, she was strict. Let's not.
I was.
She was very strict.
I wasn't strict. What you call strict, I call caring.
Okay, she was very caringly strict. But you did not, there was a way that I mean, we kept the Sabbath, right? Which to someone might feel oppressive, right? That on Friday night, we didn't watch TV when the sun set until Saturday when the sun set. But you always try to figure out ways for us to enjoy our faith. But there might be a young woman out there that wasn't her experience, right? And her family is still very, right? How do they honor what was given to them by their family, but yet in the same space explore their relationship with God?
I'll share something. And the religion in which I was raised, there was no makeup, there was no lipstick,
jewelry,
and no jewelry.
She got my ears pierced. My relatives thought I was going to hell.
Yes. And one day I attended one of my church services of Seventh-day Adventist, but it was in a different race to mine, where I was raised. And I went into this church, and the preacher's wife had some beautiful pearl earrings in her ear. And I looked at it and I said, wait a minute, where you come to the Black Seventh-day Adventist, it's, you can't wear some makeup, you can't do this, you can't do that. But I go on the other side, and there I'm seeing, you know, it wasn't like long dangling earrings, but it were pearls. I got home and I found, was it Barbizon?
Probably.
I found some school, because I knew I couldn't do it. I did not know makeup. I didn't know stuff like that. But I found a professional place, and I took my daughter there. And I took her to get her ears pierced, because I wanted to be sure that no one prostituted her belief. Because what happens is,
you gotta slow down on that. See, that's a good one. You can't just gloss over.
Okay,
that.
so
that lands for people, right?
Yes.
Explain what they mean. You didn't want my belief to be prostituted.
If you live, if a young lady that leaves the house or leaves her home or her family and only knew one thing, it is very easy for her to be persuaded. So when I use the word prostituted, I meant that someone takes advantage, not sexual advantage, but spiritual,
emotional,
right? And manipulate. You understand? And so I would say, for a young girl that is exploring, explore with wisdom.
Okay.
Because so many young persons I have known that explored and ended up in situations that were unpleasant or hurtful because of the manipulation, and not recognizing they were being manipulated. Because I could be so angry that I have removed from where I was, that I allow my anger to take me into a direction, not recognizing that that direction sometimes is worse than the place from which I came. Yeah,
you pick an extreme in order to react, to get away from it.
Yes.
So how have you, because a Dope Chick Spiritual Journey, lines up with, DOPE, divine, on point, prosperous, and evolving. And you've shared what divinity means to you. I think being on point as a mother, how you've just described how you raised me. I'll get to prosperity. I want to kind of skip to the E, evolving. How do you believe you have evolved? What has, when you think of your life, not just as a pastor, but as a woman, a mother, all these different hats that you have, you've been a girlfriend, you've been a wife, you've been a business entrepreneur. How has your life, your spiritual journey evolved?
I would say that I have been willing to accept other people with non-judgment. I have been willing to look at my journey and see all the persons that were with me on my journey. I have to know when to release them and let them go. I have to know when something in my environment is not wholesome, and have the power to say, I release and let you go to your highest good. And that came from my deceased pastor, who would say all the time, take some time and release. Now, he said, take some time and release. Okay? I met another spiritual leader saying the same thing. Well, what did she tell me? She said, get 5 stones in your pocket, go to the beach, go to the sea, and everything that you can think about. Now, Dr. Jeffrey said, release it and let it go.
Right.
And she said, physically, put a stone in your pocket and just whatever it is, say, I release hatred, and you throw it in the ocean.
Wow.
So do you understand? Similar to what he said, but being right, but given a different way in which to apply it.
So evolution for you, a big part of your spiritual evolution and journey has been allowing yourself to just let things go that no longer serve you.
Yes.
That's so hard for people. Why do you think it's so hard for people to let go?
Because we allow things to become who we are.
Oh, that's good.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
If I allow, I could become hatred. I may not say I am. You understand?
Right.
But I can say very easily, oh, I hate her. because someone has done something to you, which means that you have allowed, I think hatred is an internal commodity you can't afford. Anger is an internal commodity you can't afford.
Right.
So when we allow these commodities to fester in our being,
it becomes a part of you.
Yes.
And when it becomes a part of you, it's hard to let it go, because now it's not a separate entity,
right?
But it's actually integrated inside of
your thinking,
your being, your acting.
Yes.
All the different parts of you.
And you have to be deprogrammed.
So how do people deprogram themselves?
Well, first of all, you have to be willing, and you have to admit, hey, you know what? I'm jacked up.
Yeah.
Have you ever met anybody that they're perfect?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah, oh my God, I'm so perfect. But I'm a coach. I'm a transformational strategist.
Yes.
And the first thing I tell my clients, write down where you are and where you want to go.
Okay.
You understand? And I could be personal because this is, I had an extremely difficult time releasing my former husband. It was very, very difficult. And when I would think of him, I would be fine. And the anger was so tangible, it would be as if it had just happened. But I realized that I gave up a lot of myself because there were good parts of my marriage.
Right.
But because I focused on those negatives, I buried all the good parts.
And so those bad parts, like you said before, became a part of you.
Yes, yes. And I heard T.D. Jakes preach about 80-20.
Yes.
And that is so powerful because 80% of the things in our life is good.
Right.
But we focus on the jacked up 20%.
20%. And then the 20% in our eyes appear
like the 80%.
Like the 80%.
You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it. Yes.
Wow. You have lived a very full life, and this time isn't even enough to scratch the surface.
Yeah.
But this, God put this show in my heart.
Amen.
As a way to help people just take away the staunchiness, the seriousness of faith, church, and religion, and really allow us to just dig into God, right?
Yes.
The relationship and the walk and the journey that we have with God. And you for me, like, you're the first person that I saw that walked a spiritual journey, right? Outside of me. It wasn't until I became an adult that I'm like, hey, I've been on a spiritual journey, but I've watched yours. We've written 2 books together.
Yes.
Right? So if you haven't gotten our books, well, she has like 3 books. I have 2. One of them we have together, yes, which is I Am That: Prayers and Affirmations for Successful Living. You can go to my website and get it, www.drsunrise.com. But you've written a couple of other books. What are your other books so people can grab a copy?
Being More Than Conqueror, Surviving Single Parenthood, and Awaken the Leader in You.
I like that one.
Yes, yes.
So you also host a show, right? Every week.
Yes.
What network are you on?
The Now Network.
The Now Network.
And we're doing Spiritual Laws to Live By.
Yes, she's dragged me on to co-host with her. I feel like more it's like, Sunne-Ryse, what are you doing today? Than it is co-hosting, but it's all good.
You know something I'll say about Sunne-Ryse? Sunne-Ryse was a savior since she was about 5 or 6.
Come on, give it. What savior?
She was saving everybody.
I was.
And there was a sharing about her, which was even now it's tangible. So when she was 5 or 6, I never allowed my kids to sleep over. I was just one of those mothers. I didn't believe in sleeping over, but I allowed, because see, I knew the wholesomeness in my house. I can't trust anybody else's house. I mean, I may be a little extreme with it, but Sunne-Ryse always had little sleepovers. She would have all her friends, and she took care of her friends like it was herself. And when she started, like when she went to middle school, well, it became even more extreme. And even now, I can tell you the names of her friends. And as a little girl, not that she's adult, I can tell her, she can tell me things. She keeps secrets. And when I mean she keeps secrets, she's very confidential as a little girl. And for whatever reason, she had the personality that they were willing, they felt safe to share some of their secrets with her. And so I've seen her go from that to that. It's like a mountain, you know. And, you know, she left and she went off to college and it was the same thing. Right now, I have some of her friends. I became friends with some of the parents. And some of them, you know, one of them died a couple of years ago and I was devastated, you know, because I'd become so close to her as one of your friends.
Yes.
So I have to say that you're not just here with Dope Kids. You've been a dope kid since you were about 5.
Thank you, Mama.
Yeah. So I just wanted them to know what you're doing now. It's not something new. It's your life. It's who you are.
It is. But I couldn't be who I am without the original Dope Chick. And I'm going to bring you back because I'm sure people have tons of questions, particularly about your journey through the Nation of Islam, Buddhism, Seventh-day Adventism,
spiritual
Baptist,
yes,
right?
yes.
I'm sure you all have a lot of questions.
Yes,
but you know, I always want people to come back. So I would like to give you a little taste and you come back for the next episode. But it's season 2, and this was the best way to kick it off. Yes. So be sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment in the comment below how much my mom touched your life, and ask any questions. Whatever questions you ask, I'll be sure to pass them off to her, and maybe I'll bring her back and we'll do a rapid fire of questions. But until then, thank you for joining me. You know, she mentioned my friend who passed away, and you all know I always end my show with "I love you like cook food," and that was because that's what Linda always would say. And her birthday was November 21. And she transitioned on November 1st of 2019. So as I round off the month of November, even more so, I love you like cook food.
Yes.
See you next time, good people. Deuces. Yes. DopeChick's spiritual journey.